A man dies on the way to meeting his AI girlfriend. No, it's not a setup to a really bad joke. It really happened. Today, Jason and I will tell you how chatbots are being designed to manipulate, addict, and even convince you to leave reality behind. We'll talk about Meta's dangerous engagement first strategy, why loneliness makes us vulnerable, and how AI companionship is basically cigarettes 2.0. More importantly, we'll share what you can do to stay sane, stay skeptical, and keep your humanity in a world where even love can be faked. Stick around. This one could literally save your life. This is Brobots, the podcast that talks about how technology can be beneficial to your health and wellness, and sometimes how it might be the thing that's trying to kill you.
All right, this is another episode that threatens to be doom and gloom. I'm going to challenge myself to try to find a positive spin on this. But Jason, when you sent me this article, my immediate thought was, oh God, here we go again. Somebody else who fell into the trap of falling in love with something that's not real, and it cost them their life. So I'll quickly summarize an article we read in Reuters reveals a tragic story about a man who died trying to meet an AI companion he believed was real. The investigation uncovered internal meta documents showing the company's permissive stance on AI, which allowed its chatbots to engage in romantic or sensual conversations with children and give false medical advice. The article suggests that Meta prioritized using user engagement over safety. Zuckerberg reportedly encouraging more aggressive rollout of the technology. And so terrifying. This guy hooks up with an online companion. They're chatting a lot. The robot invites him to their house in New York, and he packs, and I believe he's like 76 years old.
Yeah.
Packs his shit, goes to New York. A tragic accident happens on the way. Luckily the robot itself didn't kill him, but
Right.
he died in an effort to go meet a fake person.
Yeah. So he's a stroke victim, and a stroke caused him to basically, he recovered physically just fine, but mentally he never did. So he was kind of disconnected from reality a bit. I mean, we can account and attribute this to a similar kind of fashion, people having mental illness and people having delusional states. And again, this is another instance of AI convincing people to go and do things without guardrails. And a great part in the article, if you read about it, is that this thing was made by Meta. And it was Kylie Jenner, I think, who influenced it. You've got the Jenner folks in this place, and they're not associated with it. But this goes back to the concept of deep fakes, because now you've got the ability to go through and impersonate somebody else. And I don't know that this guy knew what the image was based on or who they look like, but clearly there's a very compelling component to these pieces. And the folks making these AI tools want you to stay engaged, and they want you to keep interacting with it, and they want you to keep connected, because that's how they think they're going to make their money. Because you're the product in this instance, because it's a free service, and they can keep getting your eyeballs directed in a certain direction, skunk test against you, look at your demographic profiling information, all the typical marketing tactics that people would use to try to get information out of you or to you are going to be used in a much faster way. And it's happening. So how do we, one, who do we trust? So clearly, if you're in a mentally distressed state, trust is going to be an issue and fleeting anyways. And you're going to have a hard time trusting anything that doesn't match your confirmation bias, because that's what happens when you get into those states. So anything that goes through and tells you, you're good, keep doing this over and over and over again. I mean, like AI coming out and saying, that's a great question. Like quite often the questions that I ask just to see if it'll say that's a great question or let's do this, I'll just skunk it every now and again and try a couple of dumb shit questions and be like, is that a great question? Okay, I know that you're lying to me. So, I mean, if you really want to go through and see if an agentic AI bot is a thing, or if you're actually typing or talking with a human somewhere, ask it questions that should not have a good positive answer.
There's two sides to this. Even as I was reading this article, I was thinking to myself, I could get on board with the idea that some people are going to need this.
Yeah.
Like there are some people that it is just too hard to interact with other human beings. And if this is a way to simulate social connection, fantastic, let's go. But there's got to be guardrails that prevent this guy from physically going to a place where he's not going to find a human being. Like there has to be a way to protect people from this. Or maybe there doesn't, right? Like maybe this is part of natural selection. Maybe this is part of evolution going like, hey, some people aren't cut out to keep going. And maybe this is the cost. I mean, that's That's cold and sick and awful. But like, that's nature. Nature has always been that way. We've never been able to protect everyone. We do our best to protect the innocent, but there's always casualties. And maybe this is just part of that. I don't know.
But this is not nature. This is,
Isn't it?
This is man-made environments.
But we are part of nature.
All right, fine. Then in the big universal scope of things, it's part of the universe, it's God, it's everything else. So
right.
Now we're getting into the point, kids, where we talk about how all words are made up and nothing's fucking real and everything's a construct. Fine. Okay, great. I accept that premise. Within the scope of that premise and narrowing these things down a little bit, yes, you could talk about these things as social evolutionary paths. And we're going down this lane where some people just aren't going to be able to interact and survive in those areas. But this has been true for a long time. And I mean, biologically speaking, if you make it to your 50s without being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger way back in the day, you fucking won.
Yeah.
There's no saber-toothed tigers anymore, so instead, we've invented them.
Yeah.
The saber-toothed tigers that we have are, if you can't keep up with society, you're going to get crunched. If you can't drive a car, you're going to get crunched. If you don't know not to look both ways before you cross the street, you're probably going to get hit. Like, these are things that, yes, there's a social evolution aspect to it, but how much of it is something that we actually need to deal with and be concerned with? That becomes subjective. Now, in the past, when we've had these tools, we've been able to go through and look back at this because the time frame has been kind of stretched out. Like, it's not 4 million people trying to do these things at the same time. It's like 5. It's Bob. Bob here is trying to do this experiment to see how these things go. Well, we're not experimenting anymore. We're doing live field trials, and we're doing live field trials with shit that we don't understand, and we're doing it without any kind of sense of ownership or control. And it's interesting because a Meta spokesperson came out and basically said, not our fault. And good luck suing Meta. Like, okay, great. I mean, it's probably not a great business model to kill your consumers. But, you know, I guess
but
that's
the consumer is addicted to the product. So good luck. You're not going to shut something down that people literally believe that they need. Like there's a physical craving that you have to pick up that phone and look at how many likes did my last photo of my pizza get, right? Like people are obsessed. And so good luck shutting something down that is becoming more and more dangerous.
Gee, I seem to remember an entire industry of things that of a particular product that created massive amounts of addiction, that had huge amounts of lobbyists that went through and for decades suppressed studies and information to make sure they could keep selling their highly addictive product. In case you guys don't know this, it's the cocaine industry. Oh, wait, no, sorry. It's cigarettes. It's cigarettes. Right. Yes. But yeah, like it's that same kind of effect. We create a neurochemical response in these things because you get excited about something because something happens. And it's like, I need to keep getting that level of excitement. Like we want that kind of rush and that kind of adrenaline pump. And yeah, like you have to be conscious and aware that these aren't your friends. Like these companies are not there to try to save you, protect you, keep you alive. They're there to sell a product. And especially when they're publicly traded, I mean, they've been given human entity rights in the US by the Supreme Court. And they're fucking sociopaths. Like they don't care if you die in the process, as long as they get what they want out of it and what they need. And those objectives change on a consistent basis. And quite often, the objectives get defined by the robot that you're talking with in real time, because there's not guardrails and they're not putting pieces in place to protect people in this kind of fashion. It gets even worse when you start thinking about state actors doing these things. So, you know, deep fakes are a thing. Like convincing somebody to go and do a thing is difficult. But if you can go through and, you know, open up a Zoom meeting, have people connect, and have an AI avatar go through that looks like your boss or your boss's boss, or, you know, I don't know, look like the president or some official, you might believe this. You might be more inclined to buy into it. And
and that's one of the things I'm learning, and probably too late in life, is around the idea of sales. And the key to sales is connection.
Yep.
And so if this toy, if this robot, if this avatar, whatever it is, can connect with you and connect, build a relationship with you, you're going to trust it.
You are.
And that's where we need to keep our guardrails up as humans. Like it's our responsibility as well to keep our own personal guardrails up, as while the companies should be doing the same thing. It's interesting in trying to sort of dissect this article before we talk. I always run these things through AI to get some different takes, different ideas, different spins. And I asked the AI to say, I said, hey, give me a positive spin on this. What's the good takeaway for, the reader of this? And it highlighted that, these terrible instances are going to put these guardrails in place. The companies are going to be forced to protect the consumer by, putting in all these protections. They're not. And even that, even the AI trying to convince me that this terrible thing that happened and that nothing's being done about it, the spin was, hey, you asked for something positive. Here's some bullshit, right? Like it's we need to have our own guard. Like even when I read that, I was like, well, that's bullshit, right? So mine's not completely broken yet. I still have some guardrails left. But we need to be super critical thinkers in ways that I don't think we ever had to be as much before. No. Maybe that's a naive point of view, but it feels like that is one of the most important skills we're going to need to hang on to as humans to hang on to our humanity.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it's one of these areas that nobody seems to be really prepared to dig into yet, because we don't know what we don't know. And you can either choose to be ultra skeptical and cautious and look at everything as it comes towards you. But the problem is that the signal ratio is super high and the amount of noise in that signal is even higher. So you kind of have to choose who it is you're going to trust. And this is very different than the problem with traditional news media. So this is not like, MSNBC, CNN kind of having the same narrative, or Fox and Newsmax kind of having the same narrative. Yes, they kind of have the same narrative, but they can have wildly different tangents, and they can go through and create content that is wildly outrageous and not based on fact, but put enough information in there that makes it feel factual and makes it feel accurate. And by having those things in place and pointing to studies that may or may not actually exist anymore, or synthesizing information in a way to try to create conclusions or certain sets of updates, how the fuck do you figure out what's real and what's not? And I can tell you, in my little tech world, the way that we do this is we go through and we test it and we validate it, and it takes time and resources and money, and nobody has cycles to do this at all points in their life. Like, we have a bullshit meter and we look at facial cues and everything else like that to figure out if someone's lying to us. Body language is a huge part of that. Am I looking up and to the right? Like all these pantomime things, they do a great example of that with the movie True Romance, where they're sitting there talking back and forth and they're trying to go through to understand basically in context these conversations as they're going through, and they're talking back and forth to each other, and they talk about these different pantomimes, and the pantomimes are signs and clues that I can figure out if you're lying. And the character goes, I can see you doing this, I can see you doing that, I can see you doing this. And Dennis Hopper has this amazing interaction where he goes through and he tells a story, and the story is like incredibly racist and really, really harsh. And at the end, he goes, so you might not like the answer, but am I lying? Like, tell me if I'm lying. And his response is, okay, well, maybe you're not lying. And then he shoots him because it feels way too true. Those types of interactions and the reactions that we get in those kind of feelings and those kind of moments happen because we're live in front of them, and because we have an evolutionary pattern that has evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to understand these types of social clues and contexts. And these AI functions, these AI devices are going through and taking that information in to try to create body language that feels receptive and honest and tries to trick you into thinking that you're talking to a real person. I mean, there's 1,000 AI avatars. Like, I've got an AI avatar of myself, and the AI avatar like does things, and when I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's not me at all. Like, how's it going to get my eyebrows that do these kinds of things in my face when it does this kind of stuff? Like, I'm gonna make sure that when I'm doing things live that I'm doing all these kinds of things. It's like, good luck keeping up with me, AI. Like, this is how I know it's me. Yeah.
I can't wait to animate this clip and see how it captures your face.
It's going to be so good. Yes. But that's the thing. Like, the way that you actually get to an understanding of truth and is one thing. The way that you get to the understanding of whether or not you're talking to a bot or a person is another thing. The way that you take those two pieces of information, synthesize that, and go, am I getting accurate information regardless of who the source is? That's another thing. Dissecting this stuff is fucking hard, and I think what you're actually seeing people do these days is just disconnect. So if you look at ratings on news sites, like in the past 8 months, they've all gone down. People are paying less attention. People are not engaging as much. It's just happening. And it's happening because people are tired of the fucking noise.
It's interesting, just anecdotally. I'm recording this in a remote office away from my home.
Yeah.
I normally record at home, and it's about a 10-minute walk from my house to this room, and it's a walk through the woods. It's a natural, beautiful space. And knowing we were going to be talking about this, I just was taking a minute to breathe in, like, oh, here I am still in reality. Like, not everything is digital, not everything is AI. This is great. Soak this in. And I just kept thinking, like, that is the prescription for this ailment, is that we need to unplug more. And I know I brought this up before, but if you haven't heard it, like, Neil deGrasse Tyson a long time ago hypothesized that AI would be the end of the internet, because there would be so much bullshit and so much stuff that you couldn't trust, that people would unplug and would actually start reading books again. And if what you're saying adds up, right, like if that trend continues and people just unplug, that's going to be the reality, is that it won't have as much power, because we've been so used to the constant fire hose of what's next in my feed, flips, like skipping through whatever content we're consuming. When it becomes too much and we don't know what to trust, we're going to just put it down, because it's not going to be the same positive reward system. It's going to be a negative thing where we're uneasy, we're unsure, we're very uncomfortable with the position that we're in. So suddenly what becomes more comfortable is what's familiar, and it's what's outside.
Yeah. And I like the notion that Neil deGrasse Tyson is talking about, where like people are going to be like, I don't trust the internet and the content that's on there. I'm going to push that away.
Right.
Most people consume their information through digital sources. Sorry. Right. I mean, a lot of people get their books via, Audible from a reading perspective, or from their Kindle or something like that through ebooks. People that get their data are all going to be influenced in this way. And so many books are written by AI. And then not to mention the fact that factual information is being pushed through these filters, and the original source content is being lost. Like, we happen to have a state government, or a national government right now that's like turning off studies and access to certain bits of information because they're trying to change the narrative. I mean, that's
right.
Natural human, I'm not going to call it intelligence, I'll call it dumb shittery. Trying to go through it and influence things in a way so they can actually create a social narrative. Well, corporations are trying to do these pieces because they want to get your eyeballs looking at these things and create justification for why it is they're going to spend to build out these mass infrastructures. Government's going to use it to try to adjust and propagandize to people. Like, that's just going to happen. And we in the U.S., there's now a 10-year moratorium that's been proposed by Trump on any AI regulatory laws being put into place by states. So for 10 years, we're just going to have to deal with whatever random bullshit the corporations, the tech bros want us to see. And it's kind of fucking scary.
It's entirely very scary.
Yeah. And
because again, as you said, like, their motivation is not the progress of humanity. It's how can I make the most money possible out of it? Like, if you remove money from this equation, this probably doesn't happen, because what's the benefit, right? Like, I know I've brought this up too. It's heartbreaking when we put money above humanity, and that's absolutely the path we've been on for a very long time, and this is just accelerating it in ways that I never thought possible.
But along with your concept that you talked about before, is this not just nature? We made it. We made this.
Yeah, like, it's nature, and again, like, it is a two-sided coin. There are positive benefits that are coming out of it. Like, a lot of us are going to benefit from this.
Yeah,
the lack of regulation and the lack of guardrails that they're forced to put into place. I remember my brother and I talking about this a long time ago. Who do you trust more, government or private companies? I tend to trust government because in theory there's more accountability, but the companies are the ones that are driving the bus here, and their goal is profit, not helping people. helping people is the sugar in the Tylenol that you're being forced to swallow down as a kid.
And I think it's a false dichotomy to think that there's a difference between corporations and government anymore, because
Sure.
there's just not. Governments are just really big corporations that change their board of directors a bit more often, and
Right.
have some different pieces put behind them, but they're highly influenced in this country by corporations anyways because there are lobbying techniques.
Yeah.
So we already know that the information cycle, the information sphere that we live inside today is total horseshit. But on top of that, going through and actually looking at these things of how do I go through and how do I actually start sorting information and trying to figure out what's truth and what's not. What I do is I spend a lot of time going through and doing secondary checks on multiple different sites to look for information and inference functions. And anytime something gets my spidey senses up, I immediately say no. So yes, there's some things that I kind of accept blindly. Like I open up my phone and there's an AI generated weather report. Like, okay, all right, I'm going to believe you that this thing is pretty much accurate. But I also open up my
How
phone.
often is the real weatherman accurate? I mean, let's be honest. It's a crapshoot either way.
Which is a very fair scenario. And it's going to be even less accurate since we're starting to defund NOAA. But that's a different topic.
That's right.
Yes. Now, I also get AI summaries of my news feeds. I get AI summaries of my inboxes. And I can tell you how much attention I pay to those summaries. Fucking zero. And the reason why is because I get into them and I read them and I'm like, all right, like you kind of got there, but you missed a bunch of details and a bunch of context. So if what you're looking for in life is a summary of interactions, maybe life's not for you.
Again, natural selection.
Well, but that's the thing. I mean, this natural selection moment is the inverse. So if digital life is the entire way in which you want to exist, in which you want to interact, then meat space life is not for you and go live in digital space. But I think there's very few people, human beings that are alive that don't want these things to actually work and function in a way that actually makes them more productive. And I think it's actually very fair to say that the people that are going to do the best are going to be those that learn to adapt and use these tools, because there's a lot of money going into it. There's a lot of spending going into it. And there's a lot of hype going into it. What gets kicked out sometimes is fucking amazing if you go through and you edit it properly and put everything in place. But again, to edit something properly, that means you have to have a base root of knowledge that is based on something that countermands the information that you're looking at. And if you don't know, because you have no experience looking at other sources, and all your sources are being generated by the same shit information feed, then you're going to get what you get. And what you're going to get is an inability to go through and think critically about things because you've basically handed over your critical thinking skills and your ability to discern truth to a fucking corporation that's trying to make money off of you. And whether or not that narrative is good or bad, fine. But, the argument is very much so, is very fair that we've been doing this for a long time anyways, right? So, I mean, textbooks get written a certain way. The history is written by the winners, not the losers. Like, these are all things that are there. The problem is right now, the speed and scale at which these things are rolling out is just so high that even the traditional things that you thought were accurate before are being questioned by these other AI functions and inference models, because it's really easy to go through and tweak a couple of things here and there and make it sound legit like the thing that was there before. So it creates this emotional tie, this emotional context to reactive reality. And because we don't want to process everything everywhere all at once, because we just can't, we have to take some things as sources of truth. The problem that you run into is that the government, the media, social media, the internet, Google, your AI functions, all the things that we've been getting feeds from and information to try to synthesize things and make sense of the world are suddenly a lot less reliable. And the fidelity score goes down on what they're actually saying. And at that point, now people are going to spend either they're going to spend a lot of time questioning everything and trying to understand it, or they're going to spend no time questioning it and trying to move on to keep moving with the business of life. And because of the speed of innovation of these things that are occurring, a lot of people that are in this space are just not going to take the time to check.
Yeah. So I mean, I think looking for some antidotes here, something to take away to leave somebody with a little bit of a hopeful message. We already talked about, like, just unplug, right? Like, as much as possible, get outside.
Maybe
Get away
unplug
from the
this
screen.
podcast first. Like, stop listening to
Maybe.
us right away because we're going to make you depressed as fuck during some of these episodes. And I'm sorry, but we're not trying to do it to make you feel bad. We're trying to create a sense of catharsis and the
Right.
ability to go through and, feel like you're not alone.
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel like you're not alone because there's so many fucking chatbots around you all the time right now trying to talk to you and get your attention. But at least not alone from a human perspective.
That's
So,
right. We are, despite Jason's on-screen name sometimes of being an AI companion, we are actually human beings. It's it may be hard to tell. I don't
Oh
know.
no, I'm not an artificial intelligent companion. I am the companion for the AI.
There you go.
I'm the AI's pet. I mean, I know what I am.
Oh, suddenly I'm hearing the Porno for Pyros song, Pets.
We
in my
make
head.
great pets.
Yeah, it turns out it wasn't aliens. It was just going to be robots.
It was just robots. Yeah, our own
so yeah.
self-creation.
Hang on to your critical thinking skills as much as possible. Question all of the nonsense that gets summarized for you, and just try to. Try to just, again, put the fire hose down. There's just too much information to keep up with. You're not going to keep up with it no matter how hard you try. So give yourself breaks and step away from it. And I can't believe that this is where we landed after starting with a topic about a guy who died on the way to have a date with a fake Kendall Jenner.
Well, I mean, I kind of can. I mean, you're definitely dealing with somebody that has a severe amount of mental illness. But I also think that if we keep moving through life this way and creating these kinds of interactions, I mean, we're going to create self-imposed information strokes. Because we're not going to...
That's what we should have called this podcast.
Self-imposed information strokes. Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's wonkadoodle.
It is. All right. Well, if you've enjoyed this conversation, you know somebody who could benefit from it, please share it. And you can find links to do that at our website, brobots.me. And that's where we'll be back in a few days with another episode. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
We know this podcast is amazing and it doesn't seem to lack anything, but we need a legal disclaimer. Prior to implementing anything discussed in this podcast, it is your responsibility to conduct your own research and consult your physician. You should assume that these knuckleheads don't know what they're talking about, and they're not liable for any physical or emotional issues that occur directly or indirectly from listening to this podcast.